Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. Imagine moving into a new home, excited about the fresh start, only to uncover a hidden secret buried deep beneath your backyard. A discovery so extraordinary it would connect you to a forgotten piece of history and change your life forever. What started as a curious glance at a hollow floorboard turned into an adventure no one could have anticipated. Stay with me as we unravel the incredible story of Lindsay, Flint, and the mysterious bunker that revealed far more than they could have ever imagined. This woman made the news headlines last week thanks to her incredible discovery in her new garden. She bought a house and moved in, but unbeknownst to her, a huge war bunker was buried in the backyard. It was an enormous metal and concrete structure that had been buried for years, and curiously, that wasn't even the strangest thing they discovered. What they found inside the bunker was truly incredible. While moving and viewing the house, the couple noticed the floor in the scullery sounded hollow, but the agent told them it was from the storage room beneath it. During the cleaning, they found a metal hatch under the cupboard, still standing there. Even though it gave Lindsay an eerie feeling and the hairs on her neck stood up, it intrigued her. "What could it be?" she asked Flint as they went to investigate. They soon realized the cupboard was used to hide the hatch, because the previous owners had taken all the other furniture with them, everything except the cupboard and the carpet beneath it. The couple found this weird, but now they understood the reasoning behind it. Lindsay and Flint were intrigued and thought it was time to find out why the previous occupants had gone to so much trouble to keep this secret. Together, the couple was able to push the cupboard aside, unveiling the full metal flap, which turned out to be a manhole. Lindsay and Flint looked at each other, curious about what could be below it. "Maybe it's a cellar," Lindsay said with a mix of hope and fear in her voice. She didn't like the thought of an unknown room beneath her house, but what they would find was totally different. The couple grabbed the manhole cover and carefully removed it. They stared into the hole, and the idea of it being a cellar or a sneaky wine stash quickly went out the window. The hole went some 30 meters deep into the ground. An old rusty ladder hung at the edge of the hole. Lindsay wasn't sure it would hold them, but the question gnawed at them. Lindsay and her husband had never seen anything like this before. The hole was so deep that they could not even see the bottom properly. This scared Lindsay, but to her husband it did the opposite and piqued his interest. He knelt down, put his head inside the hole, and yelled. They heard his voice echo for a long time. "All right, let's see what's down there," he said while getting ready. First, Flint sat down on the edge and carefully put his feet on the rusty ladder. The opening was tight, but he managed to fit through and descend. The ladder creaked under his weight. Lindsay was only watching, and her claustrophobia already kicked in. "I'm staying here," she said with a quivering voice. Lindsay would be the eyes and ears above ground. In that way, she could help, but not put herself in danger. Flint was breathing slowly and concentrating hard while descending the ladder. It was almost perfectly dark, so he moved primarily on touch. Then a light beam appeared. "See anything yet, baby? Is it a wine cellar or something else?" Lindsay called out as she shone down with a flashlight. Thanks to the light, Flint could see that he was almost at the bottom. He moved a little faster, curious about what he would find. Flint jumped the last few steps, and his landing echoed through the dark space. He immediately realized he needed a flashlight to make progress and asked his wife for it. His eyes grew wide with surprise when he illuminated the space and saw a long tunnel. "Where did it lead to? Maybe we should call for help," he suggested, and Lindsay agreed. She called her brother, who came immediately, intrigued by their story. Flint stayed in the tunnel while Lindsay and her brother Carl followed above ground. They kept in touch with old walkie-talkies. As Flint moved through the tunnel, Lindsay and her brother eventually left the house and entered the garden. As Flint explored, he found evidence to substantiate his idea. He shone his flashlight up to the ceiling of the tunnel and could see a long yellow electricity cable running across it toward the light source. This was getting more interesting by the minute. He shared this exciting find with his wife and brother-in-law above, and they listened in amazement. They pictured his surroundings, unaware they would soon join him down there. Lindsay and Carl silently searched the ground for any sign of electricity cables. Then she heard it, silent footsteps, and Flint's muffled voice came through the soil. "I think I'm standing right above you," she called out, looking down at the ground. Then she saw it, a small piece of concrete sticking out on the turf before her feet. Was it part of the tunnel? Was it the exit? Lindsay knelt to grab the object, but it was stuck. "Come look at this," she called to her brother. Carl ran back and they began digging together. Flint, muffled below, shouted, "I see light!" Their digging revealed a tunnel and Flint standing half covered in darkness near a large iron door. "I can't open it alone," he said. Carl jumped down without hesitation, and Lindsay hesitated briefly before following. Inside the tunnel, Lindsay was struck by the discovery beneath her property. They reached the door, and with great effort, forced it open. Behind it was a room that hinted at a mysterious past. "What is this place?" Lindsay wondered aloud. The room was filled with personal items, magazines, and glass jars labeled whiskey and rum, dated 1945. Lindsay was stunned. Could this have been a wartime bunker? They moved cautiously deeper, uncovering more rooms. In one, a locked suitcase caught their attention. Lindsay pried it open to find secret documents detailing Allied submarines from 1945. These papers, had they fallen into enemy hands, could have altered history. Lindsay realized they had stumbled upon something extraordinary. Further exploration revealed a cupboard filled with perfectly preserved items, neatly folded clothes, bed sheets, and weapon holsters. "This could fill a museum," Carl said as Lindsay began forming a plan. They needed help to excavate the bunker properly. Outside, Lindsay called their new neighbor, who owned a construction company. He was intrigued and soon began assisting with the excavation. Days later, the trio was startled by a loud bang. Rushing to investigate, they discovered an observation tower at the garden's edge. Once cleared, they ventured inside and were amazed. The equipment was pristine. Giant binoculars, documents, and even anti-aircraft guns were preserved due to the lack of light and oxygen. The tower became the centerpiece of their vision to turn the bunker into a museum. "The viewing dome overlooking the dunes will be the museum's main attraction, just as it did back then," Lindsay remarked. Everything seemed to be going as planned, but they were unaware of the tragic future awaiting them. Eventually, the bunker was fully excavated and ready for visitors, but one challenge remained: the entrance. After much deliberation, they decided to transform the original hatch Flint had entered through into the main entrance, offering visitors the full experience. Weeks of hard work paid off, and the museum finally opened to the public. At first, Lindsay and her family ran the museum part-time, but as it gained popularity, it became their full-time commitment. They invested everything into it, even leaving their new house. But one morning, Lindsay was horrified to discover several items missing. Devastated, the family temporarily closed the museum to investigate. They created a list of stolen artifacts, documents, vintage bottles, and war memorabilia, and reported the theft to the police. When the officers arrived, Lindsay explained the situation with rising concern, especially since the museum wasn't insured. The police promised to investigate and asked for leads, but the family had none. Then Lindsay remembered the visitor log. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Together, they reviewed every page, recalling the faces of past visitors. Suddenly, Carl exclaimed, "I remember a group was unusually interested in some items that are now missing." This became their first real clue. Carl retraced the tour route he had taken the suspicious visitors on, and they searched for overlooked signs. The trail led to an area where most of the stolen items had been displayed. Suddenly, Lindsay noticed a small gap in the wall. Upon closer inspection, they found a hidden door that led outside the bunker. Nearby, they discovered a map of the bunker's layout. Shocked, they realized the thief knew the bunker intimately, raising fears of another robbery. They copied the map and handed it to the police, but concerns grew that the thief might still be inside. They scoured the bunker thoroughly, eventually deciding it was empty, though unease lingered. The next morning, Carl arrived early, eager to check their traps. To their surprise, several had been triggered, yet there was no sign of forced entry. This discovery suggested additional secret entrances, heightening their frustration. How could they keep the museum safe if the thief could come and go undetected? Lindsay wondered aloud. Despite her suggestion to call the police again, Flint and Carl disagreed. "This is our problem," Flint said. "We know the bunker better than anyone. We can handle it ourselves." Although reassured, Lindsay couldn't shake her growing anxiety about what might come next. Following the thief's trail through the traps, they discovered a hidden room, confirming that the thief had inside knowledge of the bunker. But how? Realizing that keeping the museum closed could tip off the thief, they decided to reopen, acting as though everything was normal. They secretly worked on a plan. One idea stood out: staying overnight to catch the thief in the act. Armed with flashlights and walkie-talkies, they positioned themselves strategically throughout the bunker, their hearts racing with anticipation. Hours passed, and fatigue set in, but Lindsay was jolted awake by the sound of soft, stealthy movements. "Someone is coming," she whispered into her walkie-talkie. In the darkness, a shadowy figure appeared, taking items. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. Tension filled the air as they confronted the thief, shining their lights on his face. Sweat glistened on his forehead. "Don't we know you?" Flint asked. Lindsay and Carl realized it was Adam, a former museum employee who had helped excavate the bunker. Shocked, they struggled to comprehend the betrayal. "Why would you do this, Adam?" Lindsay asked, her disappointment evident. Adam sat down, his head in his hands, and sobbed. He confessed that financial struggles had driven him to desperation. His voice trembled with regret as he admitted to his actions and apologized. The situation left Lindsay, Flint, and Carl with mixed feelings. They decided not to involve the police, agreeing that Adam could return all the stolen items. Though disappointed, they understood Adam's tough situation and wanted to give him a chance to make amends. Adam, overcome with disbelief and emotion, asked, "You would do that for me? Even now?" He promised to recover everything, inviting Flint to accompany him as proof of his sincerity. Once the items were returned, the trio took action to secure the museum, installing high-tech cameras and stricter visitor protocols to prevent future thefts. Moved by Adam's remorse and knowledge of the bunker, the trio offered him a new opportunity as a tour guide. Despite his actions, they recognized his contributions during the excavation. Adam's deep understanding of the bunker's history brought a unique, engaging perspective to the tours, enriching the experience for visitors. The trio organized a grand reopening to celebrate the museum's resilience. The event showcased the recovered artifacts, new security measures, and guided tours alongside presentations about the bunker's historical significance. The reopening was a resounding success, drawing a large crowd. Visitors praised the museum's role in preserving local history, and community support flourished. The museum's bond with the community grew stronger, with increased visitors and heartfelt appreciation for the trio's efforts. The recognition didn't stop there. Lindsay, Flint, and Carl received an award from the local government for their dedication to historic preservation. The ceremony was a proud moment, a testament to their hard work and determination. The journey from discovering the bunker to transforming it into a thriving museum had been fraught with challenges, but the trio's perseverance turned their vision into a reality, creating a legacy for their community and a celebration of history.